scripting, how to generate listing leads. And we did a ton on how to like rate your leads, A, B, and C, the follow-up plan, stuff like that. So it's kind of where we started.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Thanks, Ashley.
So did we not cover anything last time? Was there anything on there that you don't think we got to?
I think we ended up chatting. We didn't talk about mindset. I know that came up last time. But we can, yeah. Is there any topics on ISO stuff specifically that you guys want to cover right now? So we can dive into lead generation, however.
Was there like a document or anything that you're pulling from, like that we shared with everybody, or?
No, these were just our notes that we took from last time when we kind of chatted on the Zoom. So we were virtual last time and everyone kind of just plugged in what their thoughts and stuff were. So
yeah.
Where do you want to start?
I think mindset is great. Maybe we can introduce each other. I met Justin.
I'm Justin.
Michelle. And you are? Yeah. Okay. Nice to meet you.
Hi, I'm Cody.
Sarah. Yeah, with me. Sarah. And then Drew.
Hi, Drew.
Yeah, we'll claim him today.
Hi, Rebecca and Zach. You guys want to jump on? Feel free to. And I'm Ashtyn. I work at Veris Network with Cody.
And then I'm Claire. I work with Drew at Credible State.
Yeah.
Okay. So what else do you guys want to talk about? We can talk about mindset. It's always a big one. I know Justin had some questions maybe on scripting. You had mentioned, or just all around like improving conversation.
Yeah. Straight up all around.
Scripting.
And kind of curious, like what the numbers you have your team shoot for.
Okay. As far as
conversations made, numbers dialed, leads taken in a day, and then leads taken in a week. So just regular ISA KPIs, I think, appointments made.
Okay.
Anything else? Yeah.
Super fun. Yeah. And even like words like leads and conversations, all that can kind of be subjective. What I've learned is not everybody considers a lead the same thing or a conversion. So when we give those numbers, maybe we can all kind of speak on what that means to us, so we can kind of compare.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you guys ever want to like shout out a specific source too, we can always define what we've seen and then also what other businesses might see, because it does depend.
Yeah. Like we've always called a lead anybody new in the system. Yeah. Right. And now when we're defining it to a lead is more like what I would call a nurture, which a lead is actually somebody we talked about, who we have their permission to follow up, and we have their motivation. I don't know what you guys might call that something different too, Ashtyn.
I do think that that's a good way to say it. So, or I would kind of phrase it as a client, like an actual
somebody you
contacted. The contact information is good. So I do think that having a specific, because like you can have contact information and then you mention that.
Yeah. And then we're kind of moving towards just people that are in our system, or maybe I don't have a great term for it, but basically just people that are registered. Like it's just a registration.
Yeah, kind of like an attempted.
Yeah, like we're trying to get a hold of them, but either they didn't have any needs or they're just they won't answer.
Yeah, we usually say like unmet for that word.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you guys use anything differently on when you guys talk about
unmet?
Yeah, just not met.
But yeah, so before they become this, they would be something like that. So unmet. What do you guys?
Just either identified to contact or registered. Yeah.
Sweet. Cool. Well, we can kind of probably jump in on one of these. Where do you guys want to start? Anyway?
So
Mindset. Let's go.
That's a really broad term. Yeah. Does anybody have like a specific struggle on mindset, like either towards a lead source? I know for me, people's tone of voice, like just a real negative tone of voice can really like cause me to like, be like, oh, I'm out.
Super short.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally
Yeah,
understand.
so that was always one that I dealt with. And like for something like that, I always had to go back to, I'm just going to go through my script anyways. And doing that enough, you can realize that their tone of voice doesn't always have anything to do with how receptive they are to the
100%.
message. Yeah, that was one I always struggled with.
Yeah, I think with mindset too, like it's an abundance thing. If you think going into it like they're always going to be rude, like you're most likely going to find the rude people, or that's all you're going to remember. Like even if you talk to 100 people in the day and only one person was awful, that's the one person that will stick out the most. Whereas if you think about like the positive people, like the 99 other people that were great, then the next day you're not going to be scared to start calling again. So what do you guys do for your mindset? Kind of set up your day for success. Cody.
You know, I think it's just focus on the wins. So, right? So
Yeah.
take something small, turn it into a win, and then write it down to other even more potential challenging conversations. But set yourself up with
What do you do when you haven't had a win in a while?
oh man, search for an easy one. Yeah, so that could be fair calls to someone that you know is a crazy fan, someone that appreciates everything you do. You have no transactions with, potentially a mentor, anyone in your world that can check you, right? I think it's really easy to start with.
Yeah.
So find yourself, find the person to talk to, correct.
Yeah.
Anna Kruger used to talk about how she'd call her mom because her mom was always happy to hear from her.
Just change the energy.
Yeah.
I know that Kira and I talked about calling her sphere and just like, I mean, one, you can practice your script with your sphere.
Yeah.
They don't know what you're supposed to say next. You're just like, hey, let me do this. But yeah, if you're having a really tough day, call somebody you know.
Yeah, call somebody you know. Yeah.
Super helpful.
There's a whole go for no thing too. Like instead of trying to figure out how many people you get a yes and an appointment from, how many no's, set it up for, 50 no's before you stop. And success, I hit my goal with 50 no's.
This is the best book if anyone hasn't read it. The
Yeah.
Go for Now.
Easy
Short,
too.
sweet. Yeah. But it does help because it makes it a game too, so that you can kind of like start tracking that, like, oh, perfect, you hung up on me, excellent. Now I go on to the next one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that definitely helps.
I also found if you track your numbers, if you take yourself out of that day, right, and look at your week or your month or even your quarter or year and find the win in that, like today might suck, like yesterday, today might suck, but I'm actually still on track to exceed my goals. Take yourself out of just that moment and look at a bigger scope, and that can help as well.
And I think when you start looking at really big numbers, you can get overwhelmed, right? Like even for like, well, my goal is 100, I'm only at 20. It's like 20 people is a lot of people to help. Like if you really start breaking it down. So
Yeah.
just to think about like the actual individual, it will put it into perspective that you're moving that.
Yeah, definitely don't look at your total year goals. Like, so I think you use Sisu too. We use Sisu, which is just a digital tracker, but you can do year to date. I never go past year to date.
Right.
Because I don't want to look at everything I have left to do that year. I want to just know what do I need to do by this point.
Yeah, that's super helpful.
Yeah.
Write down, go by quarters.
Yeah, don't go by the whole year. I was talking to a new ISA yesterday about this. Her first day was Monday, and she kind of had like big eyes, like looking at her 90-day goals, right? We have 60-day goals, 30 days, 60, 90-day goals. And I said, it's kind of like your first day if you've ever like at high school or college, right? They give you a syllabus and it has your whole year's worth of goals. And I don't know about you, but I cried the first day of every college semester because I felt so overwhelmed about everything I had to do. And when it turns out, like I always more than exceeded that goal, because when you actually break it down day, year, weekly, it's not that bad. It's really not even that much. And I feel like as ISAs, we can do that. It takes a lot of conversations and a lot of dials if you look at a whole month or a whole quarter, a year, but it's just that day, so
yeah,
not getting too far ahead of yourself.
On the number side, like when you look at that, I mean, even like 40 contacts in a day, that seems overwhelming, right? But if you're like break it down by hour, it's 5 contacts an hour. So if you start like changing the way that you look at the numbers, it's easier to make it
Yeah.
more tangible and
Yeah.
digestible. So
And we have a 20 by lunch. Like, don't go to lunch until you're at 20, because in your afternoon you feel like you haven't quite,
to get caught up.
you know, got to the top of your mountain by lunchtime. Right? You're not ready to go back down. Like, you're still climbing the hill.
Mm-hmm.
And so we really push that. You know, whatever your goal is, cut it in half and try to hit that before you take it.
Super smart. Yeah. Drew, what do you do for mindset?
A lot of what you guys already mentioned. I don't call my mom, but I might start. I usually go talk to agents on the team. So I find that it's really great for me to get out of this current headspace limit, and I like to go pick agents' brains about unrelated topics. You know, we script every day, so like going and picking my brain about like objections or whatever. I don't want to do that, but I want to go learn. I want to go talk to Carrie, and I want to learn more about the market. I want to learn more about how she's negotiating offers. I want to go and get the listing agent's brain and find out, hey, what are some properties you've been to lately that you think might be coming up on the market? And then I can start doing my own matching. Then now I'm making a call from somebody like a care call, but more of a nurture. I got a long-term nurture. I've been working there for a couple of months. We just haven't been able to find a great house or the right situation.
I love that. The matchmaking, like that's how I always like when I'm in a funk, like I'll do that's my easy win. Is I'll say like, hey, I hear a problem and there's like somebody needs a 322, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna start cold calling all the old expireds at the 322s that were in that price point around there. Because it does, even if you don't necessarily get the appointment or the next closing, you feel like you're moving in the right direction. Like you're creating that momentum that you did. So that's always really great.
I'm a big numbers person, so I do go and see soon.
And track your numbers.
Yeah, I just look back and like when in a funk, it does me really good. What did I do last? Like just remind myself, like what did you do last year? What did you do last quarter? What did you do this quarter last year? Right? And just like reminding myself of the growth.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard with this year because just numbers are weird. So if you compare year over year, it is easy to be like, I'm off track. But like when you look at the volume that you can do in it, you have to put things into perspective. It's not traditional. So
Yeah, and price points have gone up. So even being off a little bit on units, for some people, their GCI is still on track or ahead of what they were last year.
it's a really good point.
So yeah. So however you track that, you know, before we had CSU, it was all in spreadsheets. CTE, which is a Keller Williams program, but they all have different ways to go back and look at your data. So
How often do you guys look at numbers? Do you guys do it weekly in your Form 1s, or do you guys do it daily?
I do it weekly, but everybody has access to their own. Like Drew, he'll look at his probably once or twice a day. I have some ISAs that I think the longer you're in the business, the more important it is to you. But some of our newer ones they might only look at it once or twice.
Yeah. And okay, so for everyone that doesn't have like a system like Sisu, what would be the way that you used to do it? When you used to track it, was it weekly that you go back through the numbers? Or
Yeah, so I have a tracker. I would meet with Anna Kruger. I'd go over with her once a week. But I'm like Drew. I always entered my numbers every morning from the day before, because I would still make calls in the evening, or I would receive calls. So I always entered my numbers from the day before in the morning, and then when I'm doing that, I'm kind of evaluating my week and my month and things like that. So I would do it daily.
That's really smart.
Yeah, and I still look at our team's goals daily, and then weekly I actually report those goals out, or the progress and the dashboards out to the
Smart.
What is the CSU that you talked about?
It's a program. I think the website is sisu.co.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
So you haven't gotten all of the whatever Facebook ads. They swear he's the only commercial I ever got.
Yeah.
Oh, really? It's listening to you.
Yeah. Yeah. You must stop just long enough for Facebook to keep showing it to you, or Instagram, or wherever you're at.
I think we all started on Google Sheets though, so I will say that like no matter what, as long as you have a way that you're tracking it, then that's good. Sisu is super helpful on a lot of fronts, but Google Sheets was perfect.
There's a Facebook group too. Anna Kruger runs a Facebook group called ISA Mastermind. I think without the S. She has the documents that I started tracking all my stuff on. She gives to everybody through that Facebook group. So it's just a spreadsheet that every day you're entering your dial's contacts, set, met, held, signed. And then it has a roll-up sheet showing you what your year looks like.
Right.
And that's what I used for 2 or 3 years. It could be, she gives it, I don't mind sharing that, even though it's not mine, because I know she gives it out to everybody.
Yeah, and that would be where, if we dive into this one, that's where you'll start to see those numbers. But yeah, because the sooner you start tracking them, you can start really thinking about conversion. We can give you like an overview, but it will kind of depend on everyone's business. It's a little bit different. So
Yeah. Maybe next time I can, we could pull CC up too, but I could share that. Like actually share what the chart looks like.
Karen, do you have anything else on mindset? I can do anything.
The main thing I was troubled with is I would be doing really well for a few days, and there's just that one day every week or month or whatever that's like no one's answering, nothing's happening, and not really you can do. You can't do it. And so I think just again going back to goals and seeing like what you did yesterday. Had some wins yesterday, and then you go the next day and say, okay, I can make up for this.
Yeah. I think that's really good. I would also be looking at, like, if that's the specific problem you're having, would that be, well, how else could I get people to answer? Like, am I texting them too? Like, can I get, do you count a text as a conversation too? If you get,
If they answer,
before, yeah, if they answer,
Yeah.
yeah. So texting, and then, you know, when I was telling Anna about this, I remember talking to Anna about this too. You never answered. She's like, well, getting face to face with somebody,
Right.
everybody's a contact if you're face to face. And I used to stop at the grocery store on my way home, not because I needed groceries, but because I needed 5 more contacts with
That's
or 7, and they can't turn you away. So I would
Right.
take that many business cards and I would.
That's awesome.
And Christina actually follows suit. She'll wear them on a necklace sometimes. And like, she's a little, maybe she'll join us one of these times, but she's kind of wild. But
What's that supermarket conversation look like?
so a lot of times you gotta like, you have to be aligned with somebody. So you have to go to the deli or like you just get kind of close to somebody. You're like, hey, hi, I'm Claire. Hi. Do you have your real estate needs?
Yes.
But yeah. But I mean, it's really, it's just what we're doing. So when we talk about mindset, you know, it's what we're willing to do to try to overcome the objection. I found the harder we work to try to overcome whatever struggle we're having, whether it's mindset or whatever it is, it's the act of working towards solving it that makes us really creative. And then when you read into it again, it's not that big of a deal, right? Because you're like, oh, well, I can go find a contact.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that is why past science and like SOI is helpful if you can't like get out of the office immediately. But yeah, it's really cool if you start thinking more creatively, like, okay, can I do an open house? Can I do something different that will create more leads?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. On the no contact dates, yeah, Denver calls it kicking like a hornet's nest. He's on my team.
Funny.
And so what he'll do is he'll like try to do some kind of like mass call session or something like that, just to like shake anything out. And so he'll either do past clients or like something that knows we'll have our higher contact rate, even if there's not like an immediate appointment. He just wants to get conversations going because anytime there's momentum, it's easier to get going again.
Yeah. So I think it goes back to the action piece. Like you said, like just, you know, whatever action helps you.
Yeah,
Helps
absolutely.
you get out of that funk.
Awesome. Do we want to go on to scripting? Did everyone have a good enough on that one? Okay. Sweet.
Okay, scripting, another very broad topic.
So
people.
broad.
What did you have a specific, Justin, was there a specific script you wanted to go through or an objection you had?
Okay, I mean, I like to, I guess what I don't like to do it. What we do as a team is a lot of circle prospecting. So run me really reliable circle prospecting script, cold call that you will do. Just somebody you're looking for a house to sell.
So like I'm looking for a listing lead. So I will say that with any call, you're going to want to bring value to the table. So I typically don't go into it without having something that I'm going to provide for them. So it's always going to be, hey, I'm looking for a certain property and verifying that's the right information. And then I am going to dangle like a carrot of some sort. So we have just sold the home down the street. We had 9 offers on it. 8 of those people missed out. Would you be interested in getting in front of those 8 other people? Or potentially, do you know a neighbor that would? Something to break the ice, but I'm also going to be immediately pitching because they're not going to be on the phone for very long. So I say it within 30 seconds typically. What would you guys do?
Because they answer the phone and if we don't talk fast enough.
Yes.
So there's no time to elaborate, like, a decent conversation, there's no time for that.
So a couple stall tactics. Anna Kruger actually has a really good video on it. I don't know. We might be able to share it because I'll send it out because I always like stall tactics. One of the best ones is, can you hear me? Because then they're going to answer that, yes, they can hear you. And you're like, oh, fantastic. Hey, just not sure if this is the right phone number or not. Is this the owner of X, Y, and Z? But if you ask them a question immediately, like, can you hear me? One, they don't know who you are. It could be a family or friend. So they're going to stay on the phone a little bit longer. So any stall tactics that you can come up with are better to keep them on the phone so that you can actually get to your pitch. So anything like that. But yeah, she has a couple of them. And she's like, when you're at church and you're trying to leave, and then somebody asks you like, oh, well, how are your kids? And then you're like, loop back into the conversation. That's the kind of like feel that you want to have on the phone. Like, how do I get you hooked back in on this? So after they will confirm, and most people are not interested immediately, right, in selling, but it's just waiting for the hesitation typically on a circle prospect call. Like any pauses, that's when you know that there's something that they're thinking about. If people are like, no, my wife would kill me. You're like, okay, well, can I talk to her? Or like, you just get off the phone. So it's just waiting for the pauses in it because they most likely they would think about it a little bit more. But it is a contact game on that one. I would say circle prospecting is going to be your lowest amount of people that you'll be able to get through the door. But if you can increase how many contacts you reach in it, you'll get more in there. So
yeah, I agree. Always have a story to tell. I'm with Ashtyn a lot of times and just listed, or we just sold something. We have so many offers. That's a great one. If you have a buyer looking for that area, having a little bit of information about your family, it's helpful. And when especially a newer ISA, when they're circle calling, you're going to get mostly no's, right? So always have 1 or 2 other questions ready to go to get as much value out of the call. So one of my favorite is, great, like totally, like they're like, no, not interested. Great, totally get that. In a perfect world, when might you move next?
Yes.
Right, because now you're trying to figure out, they're not ready right now, or at least we're assuming they're not, but are they worth adding to my database, right? Because real estate's a database game. And if you've got a name and a phone number, then if there's something there, I would go ahead and add them to your database so you can follow up with them.
Yeah, on my numbers around that, and it's usually like 100 dials, you'll get like 1 or 10 contacts, and like one of those people will be somewhat interested. So, and you can get a couple nurtures that might be like a few years out, but that's about the time. So like 100 contacts for me takes 2 hours to dial through on like that, because you'll get so many answers in it. But that would kind of be the breakdown of it, so that if I'm going to spend 8 hours dialing, I'm probably going to get picked up like 4 nurtures out of it, potentially some appointments. But is that the best use of my 8-hour day? So
yeah, for ISAs, a lot of times they're limiting it to like an hour or 2 hours.
Yes.
Like just adding it in here or there, or as we have a client.
What's the lion's share of like an 8-hour shift of ISA work?
what's the what? I'm sorry.
Lion's share. What's the majority of what you do?
Oh, gotcha.
Like, who are you targeting? Because you just said that cold calling is not an effective use of your time as an ISA. What is?
It's not that it's not effective. It's that for some businesses, you may have more effective leads. Your most effective leads are the leads already in your database or the team's database that have already been bought for or nurtured by somebody else. Obviously, for most businesses, past clients are, and I know not all teams are set up the same. Some of you might not have access to your team members' past clients, so that could be a challenge. So I think what we're trying to say is it depends on the sources you have available. If you don't have a lot of other sources available, then by all means, it's a great opportunity to go find business. And I would say if I was, I believe you're in an agent role, Justin, is that right?
That's right.
Yeah. So if you're circle calling, I'm going to follow up with a door knock, right? So I'm going to do that twice And then I'm probably going to call again and I might door knock again. So I would be layering on your activities in the same areas so that you can build as much rapport with those people.
Like looking at it more as farming versus like an ISA would have the ability to hit it like the entire city of Springfield if they only circle prospected, but you have an ability to be able to farm those listings. Like really, they know that you're calling, you're going to be the one out there and everything like that. So adding in that additional
Yeah.
layer will get you more in front
Yeah.
of them, and then they'll know your name.
Maybe even
regularly.
sending mail, or if I knock, maybe leaving something on their doorstep, you know, because you're in and out of the office, I would take advantage of that and be layering all those different pieces on the area. For somebody who's just working at lead generating, their time is not typically well spent boots on the ground. It's going to take them a lot longer to get their contacts. And that person might just not care to be face-to-face with people all the time. You know, that might be a reason why they chose an inside sales agent role to begin with. So, you know, we have 60 or 80,000 leads altogether. Like there's plenty of people to call inside the database. That circle calling isn't always the best use of their time. You have to filter it, right? Your number shows up as spam, you know, 90% of the time, I feel like now. And so you have more people you can contact.
Gary Keller said in the family reunion that referrals are the majority of business. And so circle prospecting, that's a cold call. It's like 25% of sales. So sphere and past clients is like the best way to get business.
Yeah.
So if you can't structure your day, like that would be my hot leads. Circle prospecting would be like a filler time. It wouldn't be the like number one thing I'd go to unless I had a matchmaking opportunity that I could get to. So it's kind of basically building out your business the way you want it.
Yeah.
So
You're saying don't just call, don't spend time calling. If you're me, you're saying go call C the I don't know who the heck said that. Go call C, like some mega agent.
Like where
kept
you're
saying that.
going and then you're calling.
Mhm.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would layer,
And then mail.
Yeah. And honestly, we do that internally too. But if Drew's circle calling, Drew's probably not going to door knock, but he's going to send a listing agent or a buyer's agent out to door knock on behalf of the team.
Cool.
Right. So we still do that layering effect because we do find it is more successful for nurturers if we're sending a couple, we're doing phone calls and mailers and door knocking all kind of on top of each other every couple of weeks. We do find we get more nurtured, and they are listing. I mean, the good thing is they are listing leads, right? Which is what you want. So, you know, if you're having success, go for that. One thing I was thinking when Ashtyn was talking is the reminder that with your sphere, everybody knows 5 to 7 people that are going to move this year. So, you know, you're going to know 5 to 7 people. Well, Ashtyn's probably going to know more than that. But if she was a normal person, right, she would know 5 to 7 people. And so don't discount that all of your sphere that you're talking to that you know they may not be moving. Don't discount the fact that they all know 5 to 7 people that are going to be moving.
Right. The influence
next
that they
12
can,
months.
if you tell them how to send you the referral and you're like, hey, like if you don't have to move this year, but when you know somebody that's moving, make sure that they know to call me.
I think
So-
that should be highlighted more than just you, because you know more people than just you.
Yeah, 100%. Right. Like when you think of your sphere of influence, like there's so much more. And that's why like those to me are hotter leads. One, because you don't have to pitch them so hard, right? Like you're not having to build an entire value pitch for them. You're going to tell them how you can help anyone in their world get a better deal on a house or make more money on their house. So that's the people that you focus on ideally. And then you'll have your past clients that you'll hit, because guess what they're going to talk about? Selling their house or buying their house. And so it makes it easier to get referrals and everything like that.
Yeah.
So
Becky Clay sent me a text message. I don't think they can chat in very well. So if you guys have
okay.
a question, you may just have to come off mute and ask. But Becky asked if there was somebody we listened to on YouTube for scripts. And I don't have anybody, but I'm not sure if you do or anybody else in the room listens to anybody.
yeah. Hi, Becky. I didn't realize that was you. But yeah, Bill Crespo is where I've built all of the rest of my stuff off of, and he's super old school, so it's great. Ben Kenny has some good stuff. Anna Kruger has, is her coaches underneath her, or are they just additional ISA coaches? The other two.
Does she have ISA coaches?
I don't know. There was 2 other ones that were.
There was
on there
another girl for a
frequently.
while, but I feel like she's a productivity coach somewhere.
Okay,
I don't know,
so-
but she still does, like Anna Kruger does like a session you can pay for every couple of weeks,
Mhm.
that she gives out scripts, and a lot of our scripts are built off of her scripts,
Yes.
or the old, like original bold Keller Williams
Mhm.
scripts.
Becky,
Right.
we have an ISA mastermind group that we're gonna get better at. So we'll share those links so that we can put some of those videos in there so you guys can go see them, and be able to find their channels, because
Yeah.
that will help you guys find all those scripts and everything.
We created a, I don't think either one of us are super Facebook
No.
savvy, Facebook group savvy, but Ashley created us a group inside of the KW like Market Center
Mhm.
group. So there is an ISA group out there that will share. that
Yeah, we
stuff.
can put all those docs and everything that we're talking
Yeah.
about in
And I
it.
think we send an invite to everybody, but obviously those can get lost.
We'll do better.
We'll do better.
Awesome.
What else on scripting? Anybody else have a script or an objection or something that they've been stuck on that they would like to talk about?
The market.
Yeah.
Talk about the market and people's apprehension and insecurities about a shifting market and why they should sell now because they're only gonna try to buy a more expensive house.
Sure. Drew, do you want to talk about that? Drew led the discussion this morning. in the
Woo!
office.
Love it.
Perfect.
I also got an article I can share on the group. Somebody shared it on, I think it was Facebook today, about those of you waiting, and it was a Times article, I believe, but it was those of you waiting on the title was like, you're waiting for the crash to happen, don't.
Right.
That was
Something
our,
Right.
our loan guy from who's our vendor that speaks
Oh,
every
okay. Yeah,
Tuesday.
Casey.
Yeah, he posted that.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sweet.
But what did we talk about this morning, Drew, with those people?
Really getting them to put things on paper ideally if they can put it on paper, then it's them, it's their word, their ideas. Gotta kind of lead them down that path. So I think there's two different types of people in the market right now that we're trying to motivate to move, especially from a buyer standpoint. There's the people that own a home that don't want to buy, they don't want to sell because they don't know where they're going to go and that whole thing, right? Or there's the people that are currently renting that would love to own a home, but they don't see it's possible or they've lost out on a lot of offers. So I think those are two totally different avenues, honestly. So I don't know if we're talking about both of those, one of those, either of those.
Let's go, they have a house to sell too, because I think that's the more challenging one.
So I guess the most common objection that you're hearing, or that I know that we're hearing, is I'm waiting for the market to crash. I'm waiting for this bubble to pop again. I want home prices to come down, or even just as simple and broad as I'm waiting for the market to calm down. And I think where we are making a lot of mistakes is we're just not asking enough questions, and we are taking what they say at face value, and we are assuming that the market calming down, when Claire tells me I'm waiting for the market to calm down, I know what I think a calm market looks like, but what does Claire think of calm market? And so we have to start getting super intentional on what that is. So, hey, Claire, that's great. You know, how will you know when the market's calm? And starting to figure those things out. A lot of people are going to tell you it's a pricing issue. The house down the street from me, or the house that I saw on Zillow yesterday that I absolutely love, is $250,000. But I can go back and look at the tax history or whatever, and 2 years ago that house was $200,000. So I'm just waiting for these $250,000 houses to go back down to 200,000. Okay, so it's safe to say then that if that house is going to come down in value, then like all the houses are going to come down in value. And we got to start talking to them about what that looks like for their personal home. That if they have a house that right now is worth 150, by their same math, their house would be worth what? 100. Right? And having them write those things out, I think is really powerful. The slide from Family Reunion that the economist was showing on the last day,
Yeah.
where he talked about the bell curve of what would have happened had we not had recessions, and the fact that we flatlined, and really this 25% increase that we've seen in 12 months, we're just back to normal. I think that's really powerful to share.
We talked a lot about the crash too, like people reference, well, I'm waiting for it to crash, you know, like it did 15 years ago.
And asking them what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually just put that back on me, and I give them a chance to be the expert. That's actually something I just did with my sphere. I had a baseball game the other day, and so I was like, man, honestly, I wasn't even in real estate in 2000. And because I wasn't in real estate, I really wasn't watching the market. What happened in 2008? Just let them be the expert. And what they're going to self-discover is that nothing that they perceive that happened in 2008 is actually happening right now. And they will self-discover that we're not in the same market at all.
Are you saying that I wasn't in the market in 2008, kind of facetiously? Like, I mean, I wasn't in the market in 2008. What happened? I mean, because
No, I'm
that almost removes you as the expert yourself. Like, you're like, well, wait a minute. Don't you
No.
pay attention to this stuff?
Yeah, so I don't think that they look at it that way, to be very honest with you. Because I feel like I'm actually being more vulnerable and more honest with them. I wasn't a real estate agent in 2008, right? And because I wasn't a real estate agent in 2008, did I like occasionally go on Zillow, which is what most people are doing, and occasionally browse things? Sure. But I think it's pretty safe to say, and I think most people respect, that if you're a real estate agent and you're living and breathing real estate every day, you're more in tune with the market than the average person. And the same is true for any profession. Nobody questions that about any other profession. Would you say that a person that owns a landscaping business has, even if they've only been in it for a year, has probably a vast more knowledge about different types of grass and flowers than the average person? Sure. Nobody questions about any other, about anything else, right? So you can draw these lines across the board. And I want them to be the expert. People don't always like to be told, you know, what to do, or told that they're not right. So allow them to be right and just agree with whatever they say, because they're not, it's not the same market.
I
We're
do
not
think
in the same market.
that's like one of the best tricks is if you can, instead of saying a statement to somebody about what the market's doing, is ask a question about it, they're more likely to listen to you. So if you say, yeah, well, what did happen? Or what if it doesn't crash? Just ask them questions instead of making statements at them. Typically you'll win because they'll start talking more. And that's the goal, is for you to not talk it.
Well, that's the fundamental of rapport, is people like to talk about themselves. And when you ask those questions, you give them the opportunity. And you have to, like, the way Drew asked the question and the way you did, Justin, it's all in the tone of voice. Like you were like, well, I mean, I wasn't an agent in 2008. Or you could be like, man, I wasn't an agent in 2008. What happened? Sounds totally different. Same words, totally. It's all about your tone of voice and how you're saying the question.
Just language matters. And I love how you empower them through that. And so then you're having a real dialogue where you're building a relationship, you're building rapport. And when you have those conversations where your curiosity is front of mind, it's the focus of your conversation, conversion increases tremendously.
Yeah.
Because now you're not just pitching them something, you are talking to them and you are creating a valuable relationship where you're more consultant than you are salesperson, right? Huge difference in the relationship.
Yeah.
And it empowers you throughout the conversation to use, like, my go-to phrase. How many times in a conversation can I say you told me?
Right?
Because I don't want to tell them. I don't want to sell them. How many times in that conversation, once you said what happened in 2008, as we're going, and now we're self-discovering the market that we're in now. And I'm like, man, and earlier you told me. Whatever it is.
And what was really interesting about that is when you actually ask that question, right? Instead of assuming, right? Because we hear this question all the time now. And so like Drew said, we can automatically go into that mindset of, oh, I already know the answer and not ask the question. But when he actually asked that question, all of the things they picked out that happened actually aren't anything like right, what's going on now. And so they were able to self-discover. And he's like, I think I'm getting them one step closer to not feeling like they need to wait years, right? People still might wait years, right? We talked about that too. At the end of the day, it goes down to motivation. And if you really don't have to move, somebody still might not want to venture into this market. But then you ask the question, well, how long are you willing to wait for the market to change?
And that's
know?
like timeline's so important because you can spend all day on the phone with
Yeah.
somebody that you're just like, I can educate you, you can educate me, we can educate each other, and you can still not be
And they're not
motivated.
ready.
And
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
just having a clear conversation of like, okay, great, when can I follow up with you so that we can continue this conversation? Because I don't want to bother you, but I don't want to lose you either. I don't want you to not be my client when you're ready. So that's super helpful so you don't spend your time on C people when you could be talking to A people that day. But you still check in with them because things change. But just give them the the option to tell you when to call.
Yeah. Or, I mean, if you're a skilled salesperson, you most likely could convince the C person to come meet with your agent, and then you're going to irritate your agents because they're going to be like, so they'll move anytime now in 2 years.
Yeah.
So then they just end up, if you're in an ISA role, then they just come they can go back to the ISA. So just being clear on motivation and making sure that you're really digging in and spending the time with the people that actually do have a motivation to do something soon. Yeah. Always be helpful. That's our philosophy. Always be helpful to everybody, yet, don't spin your wheels on people that aren't truly really not ready anyways.
Yeah. Does that help on the market at all for right now? Today?
See.
Yes.
Yes.
Anything? Sarah, anything? Okay. I think that was really good. And it's also helpful to like come to stuff like this or just talk to people because sometimes people say things a little bit differently than you do, and you can pick it up and say it in a better way. Because you're like, oh wow, okay, I didn't think about saying it like that. So, but questions are always better. Just curiosity. Go with a question instead of a statement every single time if you can.
When you're on the phone, especially the first time, you want the other person to be talking 70% of the time. Like if you're talking 70 or 80% of the time, then you're doing something wrong and you need to flip it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Cool. Anyone have anything else on scripting they want to cover? No? Do we want to hit goals really quickly?
Yeah, I think at 15, we could probably do goals and conversion together.
Yeah, I think so.
What if we write it up here? So kind of like how we would track our numbers.
Yes.
Some dials, conversations. So when we talk about tracking our numbers, think of this like a spreadsheet, right? And you have, like, just think we're in January 1st, right? So you're going to have the day here, and then these are the main metrics we track. Obviously, you might do pending and closed. Some people have like leads or nurtures in here. They'll have a separate column. So whatever you're tracking, put it in a spreadsheet and put it in linear order, right? What would happen first, second, third, fourth, and just write it out. And then every day you're going to start tracking what you're doing, right? So here we might have 100, 40, 1, 1, 0, right? And then we might have, let's see, another 100, and then 41, and then 2, 1, 1, right? And so then you can add these up for any period of time, and you would have, I'm just going to
make it.
do 100. 10, 5. Okay, so this, when we look at numbers, we're looking at this either for like a department, we might be looking at it individually, and we're going to just divide these into each other to get the conversion rate. So, right, this is a 50% conversion.
Which is a great contact rate.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So
That's not real.
No, I'll write some numbers
Everyone
down.
answers.
I'll write some numbers down, and then Ashtyn can go through like what is more realistic. And then this.
Does that make sense on how she's making the conversion? Okay, cool. So
I don't do math. I do math on calculators.
Yeah.
And spreadsheets. But yeah, so we're gonna just, and what that does is once you create this, and we can get more into this next time if we need to. So once you have this, once you have your numbers, and the more numbers you have, the more accurate it is. So especially a new ISA, or if you just track your numbers, every day makes a huge difference in the conversion rate, right? But to think if you have a year's worth of numbers, if you didn't even show up for the day, it's not going to make a difference in your conversion. So be a little bit gentle with yourself on your conversion rates when you're starting out, because when you don't have very much data to go off of, the smallest adjustments make a big difference in the percentages. But what's a typical dial to conversations percentage for you guys?
We have about 12% typically, and that's kind of all across like all sources. So includes cold calling, database, and everything like that. That typically will have a higher percentage. So, do you guys see a difference? Big one?
Yeah, I feel like ours is higher, but you might have a stricter view of what you call a conversation too. Like if we get our whole opening out and they hang up, we call that a conversation.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So some people actually, they have to have voice-to-voice dialogue. So that's ours is probably 20 to 30. But I think that's probably a big difference.
And then we sit in between 2 to 4% on conversation to actual appointment. So that would mean out of 100 people you talk to, so typically in a day you're talking to 40, you're going to set 2 to 4 of them. So it would take 2 to 3 days to get to your goals.
Yeah.
And again, you're typically talking to people that are in your database.
So we do what Claire was mentioning earlier, where we kind of layer in everything. So we have a set schedule, which we can kind of cover too, but it will be database for like 4 hours, and then we'll have circle prospecting expireds for sub owners as well. So everything is kind of layered within, which is why my numbers will be kind of general, because it'll include all of that together. So, but you do want to focus on your hotter leads, right? Nobody wants to go to dial all day and not get an appointment. So we try to structure it so that they have the ones that are going to take more conversations to get less appointments, just as like the last thing that they have to do. We want to get them appointments early on in the day because that momentum will get them on later on. So for us, I mean, for sub owners and expired, they're still really great. So we hit those early in the morning and then continue to talk to them throughout the day while we're hitting all the other sources as well. So, and then I know database has been huge for you guys. So
yeah, ours is, it depends. So our newer ISAs are 2 to 3% right now, and they're with us 3 to 6 months. All of them. But if you look at somebody like a Christina or Drew, they're still 8 to 10%.
That's awesome.
So it just depends. So for us, and I will say this year, it's about 2.5% lower than it was last year. So across the board, it is taking more conversations, especially this year, to get an appointment. So yeah, it varies. I think Anna uses 5% as a gold standard here. And what I find is to hit that, it typically takes 6 to 12 months. To hit that on, and then even then it can vary a little bit. And like I said, people that were at 5% at points have gone down to, it's more like 3.5%. So well,
and the longer you're in, so like Drew specifically has a huge pipeline, so that is partially why the increase comes up.
So I really think here, I mean, you really, in my opinion, can be anywhere between 2 and 10. And the point is to know the number so you know if it goes up or down. Because if it goes down, it's going to take, right? If your contact to set goes down, you need more conversations to hit your goal. And that's what the point is. The point isn't necessarily to hit a certain number, but awareness of what it takes to hit your goal.
Or how to adjust your business plan. So like if your model's changed, then you need to figure out where the gap is and what you can fill it with.
The cool thing about this is Jordan Freed calls it your countdown to payday, right? So as an ISA, we stop, our countdown to payday kind of ends with signature, because after that, the lead's kind of out of our hands. For somebody like Justin or Sarah, that's not so much the case. The lead's still in your hands. But for an ISA, it stops at signature. So whatever metric you're at that you feel like could be better, go to the step before it. It's somewhere in the step before it that will fix it. So if you feel like you're taking way too many conversations to get an appointment, then there's something in your conversations that need to be changed. Who you're calling, how you're calling, the message you're giving, the time you're spending on it, the phone number you're using. It could be any of those things, but always go to the step before it. And that's how you will improve the metric.
So like point.
Set to held. You know, I hear different things, typically between 60 and 80% is where people want to be. Always more than half, right? If you can be more than half, your efficientness gets better and better. So in this case, this was 50%. I mean, I feel like it ranges somewhere between 60 and 80.
I will say I always see buyers lower.
Yeah,
You know where people live at listings, so it's really hard not to get them there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it typically is anywhere from in there. And again, what Claire was saying, beginning ISAs, it's always going to be a little bit less. We're building it up. 6 to 8 months in is really where we should start.
You know what
seeing
I found is the help rate for buyers is actually really good. It's the sign rate that's not very
Oh, okay.
because they're not always confident in
Gotcha.
moving forward or that they're gonna find, like, they'll show up like they're interested in hearing about it. They're like, hey, but if finding them something is really tough, you know, or when we get them, Carrie's like, hey, like they might do something, but really they've got a year or they don't have to do it right now. And so, and obviously we have a lot of new ISAs too, so maybe that's part of it, not qualifying them quite as well as they could.
Hey, but they're showing up. That's awesome.
They show up, they just don't always find a house. And I would say that's probably true across the board. In general, your buyer conversions are slightly lower than just because they don't have, you know, a seller that wants or needs to move. It's going to be a more sure thing than.
Well, I really, the 18-month rule, if you guys haven't heard it, like 18 months, like when a lead is really starting to think about it. And I think we probably all think about moving because we all work in real estate. But if you start thinking about it, when you really put action steps into it, for an average human, 18 months kind of makes sense. You start looking at your finances, like figuring those things out. And so they might be a buyer seller, so they might meet at the house sooner, but then they still could be thinking buying like in the future. So just knowing that, yeah, if you're going to meet them, you might have them in their pipeline for a little bit longer before they're ready.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And then I still say, some people will disagree with me. Our sign rate, I still say, is anywhere between 60 and 80 is still good.
yeah.
Again, it's not about hitting a certain percentage. In some cases, maybe knowing that people can hit these is helpful. Like sometimes mindset wise, we need to know that somebody can do it. So these are all possible, yet it's about tracking, am I getting better or worse in any of those steps? That's really the importance of tracking.
And I think the sign part also, it's like, look at it as a quarter, not as a day, like, because you might have to do a call back, you might have to do a follow-up or something before a signature comes through. But if you look at it as a whole quarter, then it's easier to see that percentage come through.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, you know, sometimes it takes showing them a couple houses to get them to sign something. Sometimes even listings, it can take a couple meetings to get signature.
absolutely. Or get all the family ringing
Yeah,
together.
it can take a little bit of time. So I would agree with that. It definitely lags. That's why when you're starting to track, don't freak out about any metric. Give yourself a month and really look at a bigger set of data before you start like freaking out or feeling like you need to change a bunch of things.
Michelle, did you have a question on a specific source or anything on conversion?
Yes, because I'm a new agent, so I have not done this for so long. So I noticed that I have to dial a lot of numbers to get one of two appointments. And I found that my number is around $500 to get one or two appointments. So I wonder if that's the average, or I don't know if there's something wrong too, because I like to convert more leads to appointments.
Right. You don't want to spend a lot of time. Yeah, we totally get it. Do you are you hitting a specific source right now, or are you cold calling, circle prospecting? Okay. Yeah, with that one, I think what Claire was saying earlier, like layering in the additional activities around lead generation will help, because you can only call a phone number so many times, and it might be a home phone. They might have the spam blockers on, all of those things. Also double calling though, if you're okay with it, that will get you through the spam call. So like the first time you ring, if it goes immediately to voicemail, call it back. It'll get you through on the spam if you want to be annoying like me. So, but that being said, I would do the additional activities, door knock it as well. So they keep seeing your name, send out a mailer if you can, like a handwritten card or a postcard, because that'll help you get increased conversion while you're building out this pipeline. So those conversations and everything like that too. But I do think circle prospecting is one of those slower pipeline
and
builds.
the spam thing, it has just really it's always been a little bit of a numbers game. The spam blockers are just they're killer. And are you calling from Mojo or are you calling from your cell phone? From Mojo. You might try hand dialing it. Mojo, because it's a calling company, it's going to show up to us spam almost everywhere. And then you might find that is why.
Yeah.
Because it's rated. I called Mojo.
Right.
And they apparently there's rating. It's like A, B, C, and D. And he's like, we're a C, which is the highest rating a calling company can be. But he's like, we are going to show up as spam a lot of times.
Yeah.
So you might try hand dialing. Obviously, I would still filter it through Mojo, so you can filter the do not call list. But then you can put your notes in Mojo, but you can just if we find dialing on our cell phone gets us the best answer rate.
There's also a site too, especially with your guys' cell phones, that we should put in there that you can go in and put your phone number to like not become calling as spam. Which I'll try to find that because that was in the mastermind group, which is super helpful because as you're calling, but do like make sure that you have the value pitch, like what you're going to be delivering on it, and try to get that out. And it will take a little bit of time getting comfortable with the pitch quick enough. But yeah, if you can stall as much as possible and then just be cute and adorable on the phone. They can't see you, so just be adorable. So, yeah. Anything else that besides that? Have you reached out to your sphere since you're brand new? Like, did you tell them like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited I'm in real estate?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, I have one under contract.
Congratulations. That's awesome. Well, and if you can watch, my kicks, the promise. To like every business that you get, try to get referrals from it because like they're talking about moving. So as much as possible, everyone in their world is talking about moving. So try to get more referrals from it as well.
Yeah. And I made the cardinal rule of meeting when you were talking. When you said 500 dials, that's dials, right? Not conversations. Okay. How many people are you talking to out of that 500?
Sometimes 30 to 40 people.
30 to 40 out of 500. Okay. But you get 2 or 3 appointments, one or two. I think that's really good.
Really
that's
really good.
Yeah. If you're, again, right, assuming I made the assumption that 100 people will probably answer it, 150 will answer it. But if you're only getting 30 to 40 answers and you're getting 1 or 2 appointments, it's actually really good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of numbers there for businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that don't answer the phone at all.
Mm-hmm.
Phone number, fax number. So it's most of the numbers are wasted.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a small percentage that's gonna answer. And from the ones that answer, most of them, they don't wanna talk. They know that, I'll say I'm with Keller Williams, they hang up right away, so they don't give me a chance to talk.
Mm-hmm.
Only like 30 to 40 give me the chance to talk.
Okay. Okay.
What's
Yeah.
the wrong, what do you mean when you say wrong number?
Wrong numbers like businesses or hospitals, schools.
Mm.
So there's no point talking to them.
Denver does a really good job at scrubbing lists too from Mojo, just to like make sure that you get that list. And so if it goes to a voicemail and it's a real number too, delete all the bad numbers out of it, but you can hit that list again and again. So then that way you can still keep those leads. Yeah. And keep trying. So, but yeah, hopefully that'll cut down some of your tiles, but you are doing, keep going.
Where Drew, I suspect I know where Drew is going with this because we do a lot of the same thing. If you get a hold of a local, especially if it's a local number, it's probably a local business, local school, make a conversation out of it. Hey, I'm Michelle.
Sorry, I'm working at the top right now. You don't have anything to do with the business. I can talk.
That's okay. But the point is you made the attempt. I would always make the attempt.
Always make the attempt.
Always make the
You'll
attempt.
find the chatty Cathy's in there.
I thought wrong numbers to get people referrals too.
Oh, okay.
Like wrong number of expires, you'll get wrong numbers a lot of expires, or you'll get the family member of the person whose house expired. And if you're nice to them, they'll give you their family member's number.
Yes.
Or if they don't like that family member, they'll give you their number.
Yeah. Sometimes
who's now a buyer's agent on our team, but he got me hooked on the wrong number thing or calling a business like, oh, there's no point in talking to them, right? He was, I don't know if he was circle prospecting or if he was calling something else, but it was through Mojo, and he called and the guy said, oh, you got the wrong number. And he was just went into it anyway. And he stole like what was it, $1.5 million property.
Nice.
The guy,
nice.
wrong number.
Yeah. Yes,
Well,
always ask.
And in Igor Circle calling in Springfield, like they probably actually live at a house. So it's like, oh shoot, wrong address. Well, you might be able to tell me anyways. I'm still looking for a buyer. Where do you live? Like, and then people might give you the information. So you can always find opportunity in it for sure.
And if nothing else, you have a conversation. Yeah.
Getting going for the nose.
Yeah, going for the nose. So if you're an independent agent, I also do I'm always looking for great businesses to partner with my clients.
Yes.
What is your business and how might you be
Super
able to help
good.
my clients?
Mm-hmm.
And that has helped me out where maybe I'm not selling them a house, but now I have a whole group of people that
Yes.
once we build a relationship, I can get a couple of referrals usually, or just have a good contact and say, hey, this is a good electrician that I talked to.
Totally. Or you could recruit people to your team. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, and they want to be in real estate. And you're like, yeah, you can be in my downline now. So there, yeah, definitely always look at that as an opportunity. Is there anything else you guys want to cover? We're kind of over, but
That's everything we put on the list.
yeah.
Good job, guys.
Thanks.
That was efficient.
Yeah.
A lot of info, yeah.
Good.
There was no waste in there at all.
I have a lot of notes.
Yay. Well, we love what we do. So we'll try to get all those links and everything in there. And then if you guys think of anything else that you have questions on, just reach out to Clara and we'll totally
Thank you, Becky. Becky said she learned a lot.
Oh yay,
Maybe
thanks,
she'll join
Becky.
the group.
Just
Yay.
curious, how long have you guys been doing this? You should be like, how long have you guys been in the business? I don't know your background.
Yeah. 5 years. I started as Adam's first ISA.
5 years or 6 years. So
You did.
yes.
But it was the long staff.
Yeah. You did. You helped me fix all my computer. I'm not the most technical.
You came straight to KW right out of school.
No, so I actually had my license. I got to intern. I went to Willow Springs High School. If any of you know where Willow
Way out
Springs
there.
is, yeah, way out there. And there was a little real estate office called Baker Realty, and I interned with them in high school. They helped my parents buy and sell a farm back in the day. And I interned there. I got my license at 18, and then I ended up transferring to Drury so I worked as their, like, I don't know, like sometimes I watched her kids. Sometimes I stuffed postcards. Sometimes I would show houses. I guess what a showing partner kind of is with the nanny piece. But I did that for a couple of years. And when I moved to Springfield to go to college, I ended up letting my license go. And Adam helped me buy a house. So I called my boss, my old boss at Baker Realty when I went to buy a house, because I knew her sister was a mortgage officer in Springfield. And she hooked me up with Adam. I said, hey, she helped me get my loan. And I said, I need an agent. And so she
That's
gave me Adam's number.
awesome.
So Adam helped me buy my first house. And I can see now, I bought new construction, which even back then, new construction went for full price. He let me write it for 10,000 under. And I just know he gave it to the builder and was like, hey, just count her back. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And so anyway, he let me buy my first house. And then I called him when Andrew and I got married, and he helped me sell it. And then I just followed him on Facebook.
That's awesome.
So when I saw they were hiring, I was looking for a change. I'd been at a software company for 11 years. Yeah, so I got my license again when they hired me.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And I called Melinda every week for 6 months until they hired me.
That's awesome.
That's why you got
That is
that's why
100% why they got it. That's
that is the
awesome.
job.
That's
Yeah,
so great.
I might not be the best scripter, but I am. I love to. I'm like Ashtyn. I will call you. Annoyingly, I will just keep calling. But yeah, I don't know how you got connected with your team.
I moved here from Hawaii and just was looking for a job and got a job at a call center for a hot minute because I moved here with my family, had moved out here, and then got connected with Emily Baker at the time, who was in charge of the department, and we just jived really, really well, and it went really great from there. So she brought me on as the only ISA at the time, and then from there we've had to grow the department. So, and we just merged, and it's been really amazing. Denver's my partner in crime over there,
Yeah.
so he's fantastic.
Yeah. And how many
But-
people do you guys have now
8.
in your department?
Yeah, including me.
So,
That's awesome.
mhm. Yeah, yes, absolutely. So, but anything else, guys?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you guys. We will do this, I guess, again.
Probably next month or
Next
the
month?
next following
Yeah.
month. We'll put it back on the
Yeah,
calendar
we'll
for you
get it
guys.
back. We won't wait too long this time.
Did you find the house yet?
Oh, you're welcome. Let me know if you need anything.
Yeah, I figured a year. We're saying that